Hi, this is Polka Dot Lady. I want to talk to you about something different. It's called what I like to call the betweens. And I have had several out of body experiences in which I'm in a near death experience and I am spared. And I really think, and after, kind of evaluating different Christian and non Christian, um, retellings of their near death experiences, I kind of feel like there's a pattern formed that Christians, I think, are snatched out of their body before any potential serious trauma would happen to them. And I think that we're also snatched out of our body before any major pain happens because in all these different situations, I've never sensed actual pain at the time. Now, I might have recovery pain, but at the very time of an incident, I am not. I'm not in my body, and I've had this happen several times. And I talked to my daughter who had a horrible car accident, and like it tossed over and whatever. And she also had the same experience, snatched out of her body, watched herself from a different viewpoint, that kind of thing. So I kind of think these betweens situations are important because in case something really tragic does happen to all of us that are choosing to stay purely human. Um, in case something like that happens, gosh, I'm getting too. Hi guys, Polka Dot Lady here. I just thought I'd tell you about a couple of situations, and I might have to do a few videos, but I like to call it the betweens. I've had several near-death experiences, and I often call myself a cat with 9 lives, but whatever. And in each instance, I am snatched out of my body and I can see myself from a different point of view. And I have this sense that like an angel is upholding me. And sometimes I can just, drift around. So I thought I would share with you a couple of these stories. And one of them, the first one, I was about, I guess, 13 or 14. And I had gone to a friend's house and we were going to be riding horses. And it was my first time really riding horses without like, all the adults and all that stuff. And I wasn't really super familiar with all of the things that needed to happen, but it was like 4 of us girls and we were all gonna do the thing. So I got the most tame horse, Annie, and she was amazing. And we were just walking a little trail and everything was going swell. And we walked on this trail which backed up other horse properties. And I did not know, but this other horse that was on the property next to the like walking area, so like the horse is over here and we're walking like this, he nipped at Annie's rump and Annie bucked me off. Well, I wasn't very experienced, so I didn't know what to do, and I went flying over Annie's head and was going headfirst to the ground, and I could feel a snatching. I was snatched up out of harm's way, and I watched myself eat it right into the ground head first. And afterwards, I had this huge, well, it was probably over here. I had this huge, like, looked like a lime that was a huge, like, swollen part of my head. And I had a performance the next day, too. I had to sing at church for, like, an Easter show. Very embarrassing, but whatever. So the point is, I felt none of that, and I watched it all from the outside. And it was I felt very safe. I felt very secure. And I don't remember anything about even how I got back up on the horse. Like, I guess my friends helped me get up, and we went back to the house, and we had to call the parents, and the parents had to come get me, and all these things. But I have no recollection of any of that part. I just have a recollection of being home and telling my parents what had happened. And then, of course, they gave me ice and, we move on. So that's my first story. The second one was in a hospital. Now, I didn't realize at the time, it took several years for us to figure out that I'm allergic to most every medicine as well as anesthesia. And I'm Rh negative, my husband's Rh positive, and we did not know that either. So I had a miscarriage because of the Rh difference. And the miscarriage didn't go very well, so then I had to have a D&C. So I'm in the hospital and I'm like bleeding out, like it wasn't good, it wasn't going well. And what was supposed to be a 15-minute, procedure turned into like a 2-hour surgery, and they almost had to give me a transfusion. And this was like at the height of AIDS, and that's not what you wanted. And so anyway, I know none of this is going on, but my husband and my brothers and my family's all out in the waiting room waiting forever. And then they bring me back into the post-op, where everyone's just kind of laying bed to bed to bed to bed to bed, and the nurses like drift between, I guess, and take care of you. Well, I was not breathing well. Like my entire throat was swollen, almost closed, because I'm allergic to the anesthesia. And so I was trying to get her attention, but you know how when you're coming out of anesthesia, you can't really talk. You're kind of a groggy dog. So I could hear the person next to me groaning for medicine. He was in pain. And I knew that this nurse was around me, but I could not get her attention. And I just kept trying to say help, but nothing was coming out. You're paralyzed from the medicine. So I drifted out of my body, and I could see every single person that was in this recovery area. I could see the nurse going from thing to thing, and I could see she was completely ignoring me. I wasn't even on her radar. And then I could not breathe at all. And the next thing I know, and I have no idea what happened in between then, but the next thing I know is I'm in my hospital room, and my husband and my brother are there. And they were talking about me and about different things. And I was above them, like floating above them, watching myself lay in the bed, watching these two chit-chat and whatever. And I was thinking, why are you watching sports? Would I want to be watching sports? But whatever. So they were talking, and then I went back into my body. And I started coming to, and I said a couple things to them. And then I went back into being above it, and I floated all the way out to the waiting area where some other family and friends were, and they were all socializing. And I really think I was on the brink of death right there, because I don't think that you should be able to drift out of your body at any point. So anyway, that I wasn't allowed to leave the hospital for a 15-minute outpatient surgery for 3 days, because they were monitoring my blood pressure, my breathing. I couldn't stand. All these things. I was a wreck. So that's the second time. The third time, we had a car accident. We had 2 little kids at the time, and a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. And we were coming back from a wedding, and we lived in California at the time, and it was a 7-lane highway, and 2 of the lanes were going off to the like an exit to another freeway. And this kid just overcorrected and went literally across the freeway, and it was like this gazillion car pileup. And thankfully my husband was driving. He has very quick responses, and spared us from what could have been much worse. And I'm very sure we had several angels hanging onto that car. However, in the process, we did hit the center island and stay out of the big mess that we should have been basically crunched in the middle of. And the one car hit us from behind also. But we hit the center island. There's cement islands. There are cement dividers in between the 2 sides of the freeway. We hit that, at pretty good speed. And I flew forward, hit the windshield, hit the car, hit the windshield again when we got hit, and then hit the car again. So I had really bad whiplash. And my 2-year-old socks flew off in this process in the car seat. And you remember those metal buckles they used to have that will hold your car seat? I don't know if they still have those, but that thing bent. It was a lot of force in this accident. Now, during this accident, I know that I went forward and I went back and did all of this stuff, but I was snatched out of my body and I watched it occur. I started watching myself head to the windshield, and then poof, I was snatched out, and I was inside the car watching the rest of this happen. And then I went back into my body after the car accident, and I was in a daze and all of that, and it took me 2 years to recover, and it was kind of a car, yeah, whatever, not fun. But I know that God had his hand on us, and I know that I was spared from the actual pain of hitting the windshield. So this is what I'm talking about with the betweens and the avoiding of the actual pain. So I really think that we are safe from pain. So here's the fourth one. Okay, so this one was after my fourth child was born, and she was about 2 months old, and we have another miracle story on her, but she had we'd gone through some stressful stuff with her. She was 2 months old, and she had what we call craniosynostosis, where, parts of the skull they form fissures too early. And so they were telling me she was going to have brain damage and all this stuff. And we had like a network of like international people praying for her. And miraculously, God healed her head. The doctor was like, huh? Whatever. So at this time period, though, because her pregnancy was quite difficult because they were always measuring her head, I had to have an ultrasound every single week. And I don't know if you know this, but if you have an ultrasound every single week, it's really, really hard on your ovaries, and it can cause you to have polycystic ovaries because you're not supposed to have ultrasounds that often. So at the 2-month marker, right after all of this craniosynostosis, and God completely delivered us and healed her from that situation, then I started having issues. And so I had to go have surgery, and they basically thought maybe I had something wrong with my ovary because it wasn't turning up right on the ultrasound. So of course it was polycystic, but they thought for sure it was going to be cancer because, you go to the doctor, everything's cancer. So anyway, so they removed my ovary. Well, in this surgery, while I was in surgery, I died and I flatlined, whatever. And I was snatched out of my body, and I was above the whole entire surgery watching it. And I was watching my doctor scream at the anesthesiologist and say, "Get her back, get her back." And he's like, "I'm doing everything I can. I don't know. I've done everything." And she said, "No, you do it. I don't care what it takes. You get her back." Well, meanwhile, I drift over, and I can go around the whole hospital, and I'm looking for my husband who's in the waiting area to see what he was doing. I don't know why, but I could drift. And anyhow, eventually I drift back into my body. Now, when I woke up, I thought maybe I dreamt it or something. And then when the doctor came in to see me and tell me, how it happened and whatever, it was supposed to be a 15 to 20-minute surgery, and it turned into a 4-hour surgery. And they had to take a bunch of scar tissue out that they didn't even know was there. And it took forever. So I asked her, she was telling me about, how the surgery went and how it was great. And I said, "But I died." And I was kind of testing, did I dream this or was this for real? And she said, "Wait, why do you say that? Who told you that?" And she was kind of suspicious. And I said, "Nobody told me that. I was floating above it. I was watching you. You were yelling at the anesthesiologist." I mean, her jaw dropped like, "What?" "What?" And I said, "Yeah, I saw you. You were yelling at him, and, you were doing surgery, and I died. And he couldn't get me back." And she was like, "Yeah, that did happen. But you're fine. You're fine. Everything is okay." I think she was scared I was going to sue her or something. Whatever. So there's another instance of snatching. Number 5. So when I was pregnant with my third child, I guess they're not in order, sorry. So when I was pregnant with my third child, I was told to go on some medicines because my heart wasn't acting right, and they didn't know what to do, and they wanted to make sure that she was safe. She was a high-risk pregnancy, and they didn't think she was growing at the right rate. She turned out fine, by the way, but, So they put me on some medicine, and I passed out, but I didn't know. My husband was at work. My kids were playing. And then I proceeded to sleep for 3 solid days. Well, they thought I was asleep. I don't know. Maybe I was in a mini coma. I have no idea. But what I do know is several times during this 3 days, I never got up to go to the bathroom. I never took a drink of water. I did not come back from sleeping. My husband's the kind who's like, oh, I guess she's asleep. She'll be okay. So I know your average person would be like, call 911. Not at our house. That would never happen. So a few times when I was in this, I could hear like kind of heaven type voices. A couple times I felt like I was floating or flying, and a couple times I drifted out of my body and I went and I could see my kids playing outside in the backyard, swinging on the swings, or like floating in the kitchen, like I was floating in the kitchen watching them cook a little something. So I, again, very peaceful, very calm, not scared to die. Okay, this is the last one. So when I had 4 kids, and this is kind of right before I died on the other video where I talked about dying. This is kind of probably 2 months before I died. So in this one, I got up in the morning like usual. My husband was already gone for work. I started my coffee, which takes roughly 12 minutes to process at that time. And I proceeded to pass out. Now, back up. I had a horrible kidney infection, and they gave me the only medicine that was going to cure this, which apparently I'm highly allergic to. And so it triggered my disease, which triggered me to start doing shutdown of all systems. System shutdown. So I passed out and probably died. I don't know. I don't have verification of that, but probably died because I was snatched out of my body and I could drift over. And I remember thinking when I was passing out, no one will know I'm here, because my kids weren't going to get up for another couple hours. My husband was gone. There was no way for me to tell anybody. And I thought it was really weird. And then I was like, that's okay, God. If I die, I die. Like I was so good with it. Well, anyway, I lifted up out of my body and I drifted over and I saw my kids and they were sleeping happily. And then when I did come back to my body, I could see my cat and my dog. They were both standing on me, sort of giving me like, you know, cat CPR or dog CPR. Like the dog was licking me everywhere, all over the face, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And the cat was kind of like jumping on my chest, which is not really cat behavior, but nonetheless, that's what she was doing. And so then I came back to and realized what happened, called the doctor, you know, whatever. And they're like, oh, stop taking that immediately. But at least that one got us to the point of understanding that I really can't take medicine. So whatever it is these people want to do, that's not for me. But again, I just want to give you some hope. I really don't think that if you're saved, you have anything to worry about should you die. I really think it's just a snatching. You go to heaven, everything's awesome. And I personally believe, because the car accident one, should you need to, or should I need to, if they're going to like zip our heads off or cut us off finger by finger, I honestly think, and I really feel strong, I have prayed about this, that God's going to snatch us out and we don't really feel the pain. Because our testimony is for Him. And our testimony is to show that we care more about Him than this tent we live in. This tent is nothing. And when we get our glorified bodies and we go to heaven, that's where it really matters. And the truth is, if some of us have to go and suffer through things, it will be for His glory. And God will be honored, because people will say, why would you go through all of that for this? It's because He's real. God is real, and He will keep you with Him. He has your back. You don't have to worry and stress about this life. I'm telling you, I've been through so many things. We have been through financial issues. We have been through health issues. We have been through social issues. We have been through so many moves, it's ridiculous. God has your back. It's all right. Rest in His peace. Read your Bible like crazy. Pray like crazy. And go for the ride. Whatever happens, happens. Hang in there. See you in the sky. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, and I will surely help you. I will uphold you with my right hand of righteousness.